Never a dull moment here on the Emerald Isle, and north, south, east and west. We're going to be bouncing around all over it today, just having a look at what's happening, all the skullduggery and shenanigans being perpetrated on our people by our governments and others. So, I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media, and without any further ado, let's jump into it. So, first up, we have the Notorious himself, CONOR McGREGOR. He's been on a bit of a social media spat recently with the Irish government, and rightly so. Here we have him putting a post up yesterday. I believe the Irish government are deplorable. To think of the people who not only stood by as this all happened over the last few years, and he's speaking primarily in respect to homelessness in Ireland at this point in time. It continues to happen, essentially supported it, talking of the government, with deflective tactics like name-calling of the people who spoke up for their communities. You're absolutely shameful. We now have 15,000 plus and rising homeless people in Ireland, and who knows what the actual figure is. It could actually be higher than that, but 15,000 in and of itself is a shame and a disgrace. Even to have 1,000 would be shameful. To have 500 would be shameful. But to have 15,000 and rising is an abomination, and rightly so. Deplorable and shameful is what CONOR McGREGOR describes this as, and that's what it is. Many people have been saying the same thing for a very, very long time. 50% rise in a blink, and you think our government kick into action? No. Instead, they seek to ban the local soup runs and buy themselves a brand new €50 million jet. You people are disgusting. So CONOR not mincing his words there. There's another post that he put up concerning them. Talking about the attempt to ban local soup runs the very day after it emerges. I support these soup runs with monthly allowances for their supplies, as well as purchased vans to drive around the city and assist in this government-made homeless crisis. At the same time they attempt to ban these local soup runs, they buy themselves brand new €50 million private jet, none of it with their own money ever. These people have never spent a fiver of their own money. Let that sink in. And then CONOR goes on to say, I put my money where my mouth is, and that will never be disputed. Well, it can't be disputed. And there's nothing better to shine a light on people's selfishness and ineptitude than by doing something selfless and doing something to help other people. So none of this can be disputed. We have a picture there of Micheál Martin standing with that same expression on his face. I don't know. Has he got chronic constipation? Is it his conscience? Is he hungry? Does he have gout? I don't know, but he always has this pained, screwed up expression on his face, and he's a real mincer of his words, unlike the Notorious. So the homeless situation is not getting any better either in Ireland. Talking facts, talking figures. This was an article that was published yesterday in Gripped Media. Ireland has little change of reaching its 2030 housing target, explains a consultant. So obviously they're doing monitoring of this spiralling problem. Calls have been made for a radical overhaul of the government's housing plan, as a new report today warned that Ireland is likely to produce less housing. Now listen to this, less housing over the next 2 to 3 years than it did in 2023. So as the problem's getting worse, the Irish government is predicted to produce less houses. Not only are they not doing anything to address the homelessness backlog, but there's more people coming into the country and more people need housing, and the government are building less houses than they were back in 2023. So a study by construction consultants Micheál Martin found that Ireland's housing output will be less than the 33,000 units achieved in 2023. For up to 3 years, predicting 32,000 homes will be built this year, suggesting the government will miss its target of 33,450 homes for 2025. The study follows the release of official home completion figures from the Central Statistics Office last week. So these are official government figures. These aren't, hypotheses, and these aren't people saying that the government isn't doing enough. These are actual figures. These are the government's own figures showing that they're failing to meet their own targets and doing less to address the problem than they were 2 years ago. It's straight from the CSO. They show that the number of new homes built last year exceeded just over 30,000, despite government pledges. The number would be much closer to 40,000. So there you have it. We all know they're liars. We all know they're incompetent. We all know they don't have the best interest of the people at heart. And here we have them making pledges that in 2024 there would be almost 40,000 houses built. It just about touched 30k. So chronic problem. And it's not going to get any better. They're not addressing the backlog, and the people coming in are increasing. So it's just going to get worse and worse. The analysis is likely to put pressure on James Brown, with a research warning that the housing delivery across the country is predicted to stagnate over the next 2 to 3 years. The government has little chance of achieving its target of building 300,000 new homes by 2030 unless drastic measures were taken, the report says. Well, the only drastic measures the Irish government are taking is to wreck the country. So they're doing a lot of very drastic things that are having very catastrophic effects, but one of them is not to put more people into their own homes. So this is coming from the co-founder and director at Micheál Martin and the co-author of the report, Paul Mitchell. He was speaking with News Talk Breakfast that the vilification of vulture funds and an aversion to build to rent housing was limiting supply. Well, people that can't afford to buy, they have no other option but to rent, and the rental prices are going through the roof. The availability is scarce, which is pushing up prices even further, and they're saying that people don't want to buy to build to rent housing. So this is putting a further squeeze on things. Mr. Mitchell said there were 9,000 apartments built last year, down from 12,000 in 2023, and this has been projected to fall further, 78,000 this year. So we have this problem. Not only is it not static, it's not even improving slightly, it's getting bad and predicted to get worse. So when CONOR McGREGOR calls out the Irish government as being deplorable, disgusting and shameful when it comes to addressing homelessness in Ireland, the figures and the statistics and the facts speak for themselves. And what is Micheál doing at this point in time, the so-called Taoiseach of Ireland? Last night, he was enjoying an evening at the Arasford Presidential Distinguished Service Awards, honouring the Irish abroad. And here we have him saying, congratulations to Ireland captain Seamus Coleman and all the worthy winners. And there we have again, Micheál with that constipated, hungry, gout toe, pained expression on his face, wringing his paws together in one photograph. And then at the other side, we see him sitting there with that little gnome, that little nasty little gnome, Michael Higgins. Is he an AI creation? What is Michael Higgins? How did he get into that position? It matters not. But there he is sitting there grinning like a Cheshire cat. Notice one thing from this photograph last night. There's a lot of lights on at the dinner. There's a lot of lights on at the Presidential Distinguished Service Awards. Everybody's sitting there with a smile on their face. They're sitting there probably with a full belly, and they're sitting there knowing that they can transport themselves to and from their homes, unlike many people in the west of Ireland at this point in time who are still without electricity 1 week after the so-called unprecedented Storm Eowyn. So contrast that photograph with what you're seeing and the reports that you're seeing coming out of the west of Ireland. People still stranded with no electricity, maybe won't have any back on again until the 5th of February, and hundreds of people having to be flown in from abroad and procuring generators just to keep some power on in some places while people struggle through. It's an absolute abomination. And this is an update from last night. 76,000 homes, farms and businesses still without power after the Gardaí warn of scams. Scams after Storm Eowyn. People urged to be wary of bogus tradespeople and fraudulent calls. And here we have a picture of one of those eyesore wind turbines blown over and broken over by the wind. And to be honest with you, when they talk about scams and bogus tradespeople, no bigger scammers out there. than the Irish government, and no bigger scammers out there than those people that are pushing the so-called Green Deal and net zero and banging on about climate alarm when they're having to import diesel generators, fly them in from Poland and Germany and Denmark, fly in engineers to restore electricity because they don't have any surplus, because the wind and the solar haven't generated enough to keep them going. And in fact, dare I say, they're breaking down, literally. Look at that picture. They've broken in half. So that's a little bit of a summary of what I've just said. 285 skilled contractors from Australia, Finland, France and Great Britain are now on the ground in the worst impacted areas. Now, they're on the ground, engineers, and where are the government? Where is Micheál Martin? Where is President Higgins? Sitting, lording it up at a dinner, stuffing their faces, shaking hands, patting each other in the back in their opulent surroundings with their crystal chandeliers on, while people are having to be flown in to restore power back into the west of Ireland predominantly. Mary Lou McDonald, here we have her looking very reflective here. Opposition parties strongly reject government proposal to solve the Dáil speaking time in a row after a 5-hour meeting. Now, remember, they tried to recall that there was calls for the government to be reconvened this week, and they were told that, well, us getting together isn't really going to solve the problems of no power and no infrastructure in the West. So we're just going to get on with our business of electing junior super ministers, whatever title they want to bestow upon them. But they have time. They have time to sit and meet for 5 hours, then have a row and then reject each other's proposals over speaking time. Remember, they said there's no point in us get together speaking because it won't actually achieve anything. And then they sit together for 5 hours having a meeting over speaking, and then they fall out at the end of it. Deplorable, disgusting, and shameful. Echoing the words again of the Notorious. Now let's go up into Northern Ireland, or the north of Ireland, depending on which way you want to label it. Let's look at what Michelle O'Neill has to say. Michelle O'Neill, the so-called First Minister, she's been campaigning this week, talking about men. Here's an infograph here. Men, don't stand by, speak out, be part of ending violence against women and girls. And then she goes on to say that men can challenge misogynistic attitudes and men can make a real difference. If you're in a social circle, a workplace or a sports club, we all have the power to be a voice for positive change. And today, this is a few days ago, we launched the Power to Change campaign, empowering men to help this. Okay, well, that's fair enough. But then we have another article that was posted last night in Belfast Live. Non-fatal strangulation accused man gets bail despite the police service of Northern Ireland concern over risk to alleged injured party. Belfast court told that the injured party, a woman, was concerned about retaliation after she'd allegedly been strangled and abused by this man, and she's let out despite police recommendations that he doesn't get bail. It stands in contrast to what Michelle O'Neill's message is. Men, don't stand by, speak out. Well, I'm speaking out right now. I'm saying that this man, if there's a risk potentially to this lady's life and the police have advised that he doesn't get bail, what can you do about this, Michelle O'Neill? Can you not make an intervention on this? Can you not practice what you preach? Never mind men standing up for women. Why don't you stand up for women? Why don't you do what's right? If you can even define what a woman is, that is. Because these days, let's just say definitions are a little bit fluffy from some of the so-called major parties in Northern Ireland. 30-year-old Belfast man facing charges, attempted strangulation, false imprisonment of a woman in her own home, granted bail yesterday. Despite police objections, David Kinnaird from Upton Court was released from custody. Protect women, speak out against women. And here we have this man allegedly accused of these crimes, despite police advice, released back into the community again. Judge Sandra Crawford was addressed by a prosecuting barrister and Kinnaird's solicitor. So it was a female judge as well, decided to let this guy out. Telling the judge the application was being opposed, the Crown barrister said that Kinnaird was facing 6 charges dating back to last March and April. These charges, she said, included non-fatal strangulation, of a woman, false imprisonment of a woman, assault and criminal damage. Regarding the offences alleged to have been committed on the 13th of March, the prosecutor said a female claimed that after her and he had a verbal row in the home, he prevented her from leaving the property. Well, there you go. What are you going to do about it, Micheál? Tell us that. Staying in Belfast. Interesting, this UK coffee brand to open in Belfast city centre, Black Sheep Coffee. And to be quite honest with you, I'm surprised that one has been given the green light, given the wokeness and the political correctness that's existent in government these days. I'm sure there's somebody would find offence at that title, Black Sheep. You know, you have to be careful what you say these days. It means nothing to me. Black Sheep Coffee, I think it's a great name, but I'm sure somebody out there will be pouting today saying, that's a racist, that's a slur. You shouldn't call it that. You know, we shouldn't be so judgmental. Not me, but I'm sure somebody will. So I'm surprised they managed to get permission to open under that name. But there they have it. And they'll open their first store in the island of Ireland in Belfast next week, with plans to open another location in the city later this year. And let me say this, just from personal experience, they're opening in a building that I used to work in many, many years ago. And not having been in Belfast much over the last 5 years, every time I go into it, it dies a little bit more in the city centre. And all the coffee shops and all the great chains of independent coffee shops that were existing in Belfast 5 and 10 years ago, they've pretty much all shut down now. They're pretty much all shut down. You've still got your chains in there. Your Starbucks is in there. You've got your Cafe Nero's in there. But all the great, small, independent chains have gone. But Black Sheep are going to have a pop at this. Maybe they'll make it succeed. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But good luck to them anyway. One thing Belfast needs in the city centre is good quality, decent, smaller chain coffee shops, somewhere you can go and get yourself all fired up like I am today. And just to finish this off, a little story that I saw that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Milk, bread and pint. Lidl is set to open a pub in one of its stores in County Down, not too far away from me. The High Court in Northern Ireland has granted retailer permission to go ahead with plans to open a pub in its Dundonald store so shoppers can enjoy a drink in store. You go to Lidl, I imagine you go to pick up some shopping, get some supplies in and get the hell out of there as quickly as possible. The thought of stopping before you're shopping, during your shopping or after your shopping, parking your trolley up and sitting and having a pint in Lidl, I just can't comprehend that. But somebody's identified a market for it. And yeah, the High Court has granted permission. So if you're in County Down, if you're in Dundonald and you can't find a nice pub, make your way to Lidl and you can pick up a bag of carrots, some potatoes and have a pint while you're in there. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? So anyway, that's a little roundup of what I'm seeing towards the end of this week. Today being, what date is it? Actually, it's the, don't even know what day it is. It's the 31st of January, 2025. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, do it. If you like the content, that is. If you don't, just keep moving, keep flicking, keep scrolling elsewhere. Subscribe. Hit the notification button, and most importantly, if you like what you see, cut and paste the links to the videos and send them into WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, or whatever. We need to get the word out there about what's happening, and we need to call spades spades and not big spoons. So in the meantime, this is me, Rick Munn, No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.